T1 and Gumayushi in our featured matchup presented by Mercedes.
In today's featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, we have Berserker facing off against the organization where he started his career back in 2020 on T1 Challengers. He was ultimately looked over for the bot lane position on the main team by none other than the man he plays against today, Gumayushi. Berserker has been the shining ray of hope for this Cloud9 roster, not only at Worlds, but throughout the entire year. C9 is always able to rely on the safety net that is Berserker's hyper-carried playstyle.
But he's overstepped, and casi's gonna get punished by Berserker!
However, facing C9 is their longtime international kryptonite, T1. And just as Berserker has been C9's reliable late-game carry, Gumayushi has been T1's. Now, as C9 face their old nemesis in T1, Berserker must also face his in Gumayushi. The hopes of the LCS, the pride of the LCK are on the line. Who will come out on top?
I think the interesting thing about this is that, well, everything you said is true, and he is that kind of shining light for Berserker in the LCS. Again, we talked about in 5v5, they haven't really been able to get it done against these top Eastern teams, and Berserker and Sven are not known to dominate lanes, so I think they're going to have to find those early skirmishes. They're going to have to try to get him involved if they want him to be a big factor in this game, because he can't just sit back and scale and expect to out 5v5 T1 later.
I mean, versus Matt is a good example, you know. Sven was roaming a lot, he was impacting, and there was impact in the lane. That could be good. We heard it there. You said it, because it was your voiceover. It was beautifully done, by the way.
Wow, incredible.
T1, wonderful.
What can he do?
What can't he do? T1 is the kryptonite of Cloud9, so who's Lex Luthor in this scenario, do you think? What's the hardest thing what's the hardest thing for C9 to deal with?
Oh, it's got to be either the team fighting once you get to mid to late game. I think that's also been a recurring theme throughout the entirety of this tournament. Once you get to team fights, it feels like even the best Western teams can't quite match the East, and I think that applies here as well. And secondly, I think Zeus is still a really tough nut to crack. And the draft is going to give me a really good idea, I think, going into this match, because we did see that Guma and Carrier played, especially in the first match, really for prio.
Yeah.
Would expect to see that here today to try and shut Berserker down.
I'm just so interested, you know, you talked about the draft, you know, if we're thinking that C9 have to get aggressive early, that hasn't really been Blabber's playstyle for a while. You know, if you think back to like 2018 Blabber, he was known as this coin flippy guy. He's going to go aggressive. He's going to fight you. Now he's all about efficiency, and we saw that in his picks in the first two games as well. He went Talia, then Sejuani. He's going to try to power farm. He's going to try to get levels, and he's going to try to make sure when he's going for a gank, it's a really good angle, and it's a time that it's going to make it happen. Some people were critical of the fact that they were spending so much time top trying to help out Fudge against LNG, because a lot of people, especially in the community, feel like you need to be going to Berserker if he's your best player. But if you're too obvious with where you're going to go and you only play one style, then these teams are going to shut you down every time.
Now, Mao, you've also said that there are some bad habits from the side of T1. So even though maybe the straight 5v5 is a problem for C9, perhaps in the setup they can win?
Yeah, it's the thing with T1 is that if they play the way we saw them play in the LCK playoffs, I definitely think they have a shot. But I do think you can still see the issues that have plagued this team for the entirety of summer, ever since MSI. It just doesn't feel like they're on the same page. And whereas previously I think a lot of people were just blaming the draft for T1, to me now it still feels like the synergy between owner and carrier that made them go as far as they did last Worlds isn't really there. Individual performances have been a little bit hit or miss, and particularly in the early game, and the TL game was the best example of this, they will handshake on every single play. And if you can find a way to maybe punish an overextension, someone going too deep, I think that's the only angle you have. I think this might be the one opportunity you have as well, because I think T1 is going to scale into the tournament really well.
And I think one of the difficulties about trying to replicate what TL did is that Pyosik had a truly heroic game. His Lee Sin was insane. One of the best jungle games we've seen in the whole tournament from any player. So you can't just say, just do what TL did.
Just do that, bro.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah. Solo kill faker.
Are you saying Blabber can't replicate that?
I think he can, but to expect it, you know, on a dime, no player, I think, can give you that game every time.
It's like a 1% game, almost.
Even for Pyosik.
Yeah.
Like, let's not pretend that Pyosik is this paragon of consistency.
Actually, it's like a .20 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's,
I love the guy,
insane. But I think, though, to that point, that is what it's going to come down to for a C9 to get put in a favorable position to move to T1, and a favorable position. This is what you have to channel.
Yeah, you have to play at your top level. C9 really needs to bring their best possible performance.
They do, and with the final Best of Ones of Worlds 2023 ahead of us, it's all about securing the best position for the upcoming Best of Threes. It's time to kick off Swiss Stage Day 4.
Let's go!
일단 이번 스위스 스테이지가 어떤 경기든 굉장히 의미 있고 굉장히 중요한 경기이기 때문에 매 경기마다 이제 좀 저희가 더 배울 점이 있는 것 같아서 저는 좋다고 생각합니다.
It is Worlds. The intensity is, it's just different, but we're trying to adjust.
Bueno, básicamente están diciendo que
오늘 스스로
le espera lo que vaya a pasar, que le va a entrar con todo y que va a ganar el torneo del 1-1 como equipo, ¿eh? Es como lo mejor de lo mejor, mucha en el torneo de League of Legends, día número 4, cerotes, creo que mañana es cuando revienta la gran final. Yo la verdad, generalmente me gusta transmitir esto porque puta, son torneos de puta madre el gaming, ¿va? Entonces siempre Riot estaba a la delantera con eso, creo que ellos hicieron un estándar en cuestiones de los torneos en el cual otras marcas han hecho una copia o han tratado de imitarlo, por ejemplo Call of Duty, o en tiempos muy pioneros, muy pioneros, que se hizo, por ejemplo, con Halo, o si vamos más atrás todavía, como los primeros campeones de Mario Bros. De Pac-Man, por ejemplo. Entonces, son cosas y puntos de vista que observar, bastante interesantes dentro del gaming, y ver cómo putas dominan estos, por ejemplo, estos coreanos. O sea, estos cerotes están dominando el gaming, pero ya a nivel profesional. O sea, es mara que les están pagando para jugar. Entonces, es mara que vive eso y que tiene sus sponsorships, sus patrocinios. Vieron ahí, me gusta ver los labels. Por ejemplo, ese tiene un label de Kia, el otro tenía un label de Audi, Red Bull. Es interesante, AT&T, o sea, es interesante ver esos sponsorships ahí para estos brothers. La química y la mística dentro del gaming. Y bueno, pues ahorita vamos a ver ahí cómo queda ahí ya saliendo de cuartos ya para final, ya, que es lo que creo yo que es lo que va a pasar el día de mañana. Si traduzco esto de una forma divertida, dice el cerote, bueno, la verdad que para la verga vamos a ganar, dijo. Señores, transmitiendo en vivo, haciendo una réplica ahí, vi que estaba live, dije, puta, es horario Corea, ¿va? Entonces, yo a League of Legends le tengo mucho cariño, es un juego que jugué por mucho tiempo. Y bueno, ahí están los Masters. Creo que vieron un par de chavos un grupo latino que dio bola, creo que hace como 2 años, ¿no? Había un guatemalteco ahí. Bueno, que zócala pues, zócala.
Trying to get the big win today. How are you guys doing on this lovely day? I'm feeling pretty good. We're going to find out who's going to pull ahead of the pack, who's going to fall behind, but especially because we're starting things off with T1 versus Cloud9. I'm glad we have the numbers advantage over here, Valdez, but I think we're going to have a pretty unbiased cast, don't you think so, Jet?
I agree. I feel like from years of casting international events, I am very good at staying unbiased, whether you're winning or losing, and I think we're just going to have a good, solid game, even if C9 has lost 6 consecutive games to T1 at the World Championship.
It has been SK Telecom and T1's game when these teams have met in the past, and both of these teams find themselves at a 1-1 here. T1 facing old rivals in Gen G in that loss, and Cloud9 falling to LNG, one of the toughest contenders in this tournament. Most people would favor T1 going into this matchup, but we saw T1 showcase some weaknesses in that opening game against Team Liquid. Rocky early game, Baker getting caught in sides. It was some mistakes from Team Liquid and also just better team fighting from T1 at the end of the day that helped them cross the finish line.
Yeah, and I feel like both of these teams, as you mentioned, their stats do look very similar. Shocker, they are both 1-1. But even the paths of their games have been a little bit similar. The fact that T1 had a pretty substantial gold lead against Gen G before getting caught a few times and losing some crucial team fights down the stretch. That was similar to C9's game as well when they lost. So they were able to actually kill Scout, almost took LNG down, but then lost late game team fights. So as we're in a draft, the big question for me was, what is C9 going to do on red side? We were thinking Caitlyn, Kalista, and Orianna bans, but we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, this is a big moment. You come into a game, it's a best of one. You got to have the best draft possible prepared in this very contentious matchup. Ooh. There's the Renata. We've been talking a little bit about how that has been climbing in priority, and they're just going to take it away from Keria altogether.
Yeah, so this generally means Kalista or Orianna are going to be going through, which is not something that C9 has let through, and Orianna is something that Faker has played both games.
Yeah, this is a really big question, right? If you feel like you can conquer Faker's Orianna, Chovy could do it. They'll ban the Azir. This is a pick that Faker has often been reliant on. We'll see if T1 will actually take the Kalista first here and break tradition from what we've seen from them so far.
Bueno, ya vieron donde me lo estoy hueveando,
They'll actually go to Guma Zaya. Now this pick has such
ahorita ya tiraron support, jungle. Ahorita, está tirando un Mero así, Mero fumado del lado de C9.
The most wins that any champion has won in the main stage thus far. And it was also Guma's most played in summer.
Yeah,
creo que vienen los bans también.
Guma is so strong on this pick. I'm glad that at least they take the Rakan away because
a mí lo que me gusta ver son los tanques, que es como lo que más me gusta a mí.
On our side, but C9 is going to take that one away. They also take away Faker's Orianna, which is the only thing he has played so far. But I do have to say that first pick, Zaya, still very valuable here for the side of T1.
Now, Faker has gone back to Nico a lot in these types of scenarios where his priority pick is gone, the Azir is taken away. And I think he might actually save counter pick for the later part of this, but it will be the Rumble they pick up here for Zeus first. So already two top-tier picks going over the side of T1. We'll see if they want to grab an Alistar here as well. Doesn't show a whole lot. It's a top-tier support pick, one that Keria is very good at. And I think that if you want to hide Faker's pick for now and see if C9 are interested in going deeper down that rabbit hole, the Alistar's one of the safest picks you could grab here right now.
Yeah, it looks like they're actually going to keep support and mid to basically pinch C9's ability to ban out a specific role, but kind of just straight up power picks for T1 so far. Jarvan Rumble synergy is going to be really high. Rumble's a champion that hasn't made it through all that much. It's been banned 12 times so far in the main stage, the fourth most banned of all champions. But, I mean, there's a chance we just go through this entire draft 0 Kalista, so even though it was the most banned champion thus far, it'll go unpicked, unbanned this draft.
Yeah. Now, Zeri going to come through here for Berserker as the 80 carry pick. So Zeri Rakan, very strong in the late game. You have so much setup for the Zeri, and even though you don't have a front line in this draft just yet, there's a lot of strong picks you can utilize like Cassante that will give you that front line. We'll see if T1 want to take that away. You also have a pseudo front line in that Rakan can hold choke points. You have Orianna to hold choke points. You can buy a lot of space for Zeri in a composition like this. Let's see if T1 want to keep the focus on that Cassante. The answer is yes.
Cassante has been all over the Rift, as we have seen so far at the world stage. The Nautilus against the Zeri taken off the board here. What is going to be this last ban for the side of C9?
Could just be the Alistar, you know, I was talking about a lot here. Just seems like a really safe choice. You can pinch that support pool because Faker is a bit of an unknown here in this draft, but you know what the top tier support picks are for sure, and it's a no-brainer here.
I think especially since Berserker will be so critical to any C9 win, just trying to make the T1 bottom lane as weak as possible via support bans is actually more important than trying to throw random bans at Faker.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that T1 left, you know, Keria and potentially Faker here as the last picks, because these are the two guys that have the biggest champion oceans on the side of T1. So I think it gives you a lot of flexibility to just say, let's see what C9 are going to pick, and then we can decide what we want to do next.
I do wonder if Faker wants to play Nico to try to set up for Rumble and Jarvan combos here because it's left available, or if he'd rather go for something like a LeBlanc here. Strangely enough, it's not as popular these days, but it's a pick he's very well known for, and one that would allow him to side lane pretty efficiently, put some pressure on the Orianna later on, come in at side angles to threaten Zeri. It's definitely a pick that I think is pretty niche, but one he could pull out here. It's going to be Bard for Keria.
Well, what do we have here?
Wow.
Keria pulling out the first Bard of the tournament, and the Sylas going to be taken here as well. Definitely some decent ultimates on the opposite side. We've been seeing Chovy pick this up as well. The Sylas pretty interesting, I'd say.
Honestly, I've definitely seen better Sylas ultimates. Nothing here screams to me great Sylas pick. There's no Maokai or Alistar on the other side that would be super powerful. It's more of that Faker just wants this for the general theme of their team composition. And then the Belveth coming in for Blabber as well. It's actually a departure from what Blabber's played for most of the summer split. Summer split was a lot of Maokai Sejuani duty, so a totally different look here for C9's jungler as far as what he's been playing recently.
There's a lot of pushing power with Jax and the Belveth, of course. If you end up getting a lead or if you drop Rift Herald topside, if you win that early Rift Herald fight, there is so much you can gain from that. Pretty tough to win that fight, of course, against Sylas in that first battle of ultimate. Sylas will be able to match the Orianna ultimate. You have to deal with Equalizer. But I think if C9 can actually win the first Herald, drop it topside, they can get Jax pretty ahead. And then he's going to have an opportunity to be a big side lane threat later on to buy time for Zeri to be that late game carry. The composition here, I feel, for C9 is pretty vanilla, although Zeri's not as common, Belveth a little bit rarer. You know what this comp is set out to do. For T1, I think the execution a lot more complex on how they're going to utilize this Bard pick.
Yeah, so 423 career games of record for Blabber. This is his second Belveth. So not the most common pick for him.
I'd be curious about the Bard numbers as well, because I know that Keria has played it before, and it can work in terms of setting up some of the wombo combo that they do have. But yeah, the Belveth coming in, I think it definitely does have power. It can be a little bit feast or famine, but we have seen it feast a bit here at Worlds when we have seen it. So I think that C9 trying to bring in some pocket picks, trying to bring in some interesting stuff to potentially take down T1.
Got an answer for you on the Bard. 7-1. So that's 7 more wins than Blabber has on Belveth. And it's of almost 550 games for Keria's career.
That's quite a lot of games, and guys are ready to jump into the first game of the day. I think that tells you who the crowd is siding with for this one.
Huh, shocker.
I didn't hear a C9 cheer.
Weird.
Strangely enough.
Where are we?
Well, hey, they've got Korean players on the roster, all right?
True.
Sometimes when you have T1 versus Gen.G or T1 versus KT, you feel like only T1 was there. This is by far the most popular team in Korea. They drown out a lot of fan chants. And we do have this early aggression here by T1 at level 1. Ultimately won't end up being too impactful in a ward drop tier either.
Yeah, Silas Bard, very strong, level 1, so maybe just want to see if they can catch someone out a little bit off guard, but just going to be returning to the lanes. And we'll just have to wait and see what does happen. In this bottom lane matchup especially, I think, we were talking about how Berserker, very key, very big carry aspect of the C9 roster, whereas Gumayusi getting a big comfort pick with the first pick, Xayah. Definitely going to have my eyes on that bottom lane.
And early on, I'm really curious how well T1's going to be able to push these lanes, because the Rumble up top definitely gets push. I think Xayah Bard is likely going to be getting pushed early, although I can see that being contested. So it's this mid lane where you would think Orianna can get shoved early in the lane just because it's ranged versus melee, but then that's also going to be Owner's first look for where he's going to be ganking, because the way T1, I feel like, has tried to default their playstyle is a little bit back to how they were winning about a year ago, where they just try and push every lane, play super aggressive. So I think that's what T1's going to be going for this game, and MNS needs to make sure he has really good wards. And he needs to push as well, so that there's not 3 lanes getting pushed in, which would stop Blabber from having any river access.
Yeah, looking to try to use the moments when Faker is clearing to actually get some damage in with his Q as he did there, trying to keep the health slightly to his advantage, to use the range advantage there as best as he can to get one of those wards up. Blabber will be seen, speaking of wards here, by this one as he does come down towards Owner's portion of the jungle. And this early game here, obviously, for Rumble and Jax can go either way. The Rumble has a lot of advantages there. Zayas did take Comet and the Ignite, so he is going to have some ability to put some real pressure on in these first few levels.
Yeah, and very early on, I actually think this is advantage T1, because what Blabber did there, as Fudge is trying to sneak in behind the turret of Zeus, that's not normally how Rumble lanes go, unless I haven't been studying top lane most recently.
We have seen a few times that Jax will try to go at level 3, level 4, like right on the cusp of that, and actually proxy that wave so they can avoid the harassment, but he kind of failed it there and will take a bit of damage. Meanwhile...
Uh-oh, they just line up for it. That's a lot of poke damage. Got to be careful about that. We've been seeing a lot of summoners burned early in the bottom lane of this world so far.
Yeah, so I think good start by Fudge in the top lane. He'll be able to get a recall off there. The problem for Blabber is he's not going to get access to this bottom Scuttle Crab most likely, because the Xayah Bard is already there early. It will depend, though. MNS's condition is very good, so there could be, I mean, Blabber being able to get this because of MNS's condition is very strong.
This is going to be huge here. We'll be able to pick this one up. You see the push in mid also going to be able to help as M&S could come down and assist. Keria looking for the journey.
Nice juke.
Yeah, not going to hit that one. Berserker just keeping his cool. Very important to do that, especially with both the supports on the roam. Got to be careful.
Yeah, and that magical journey is going to be very useful for setting up flanks for the Sylas later on, setting up flanks for Jarvan later on. It does work very well with this composition. The ultimate as well can really put a damper on Jax trying to flank, depending on how Keria wants to utilize it. As you mentioned, Fudge will be able to come back to lane with that proxy without burning his teleport. Feels very nice to do.
Yeah, and I think M&S, whether or not he's able to hold on to his flash, is going to be so critical this entire game. Nice steal there by Owner, recovering from the earlier crab. But basically, you can see Fudge, Blabber, Sven, Berserker, they have all ways to escape a Jarvan or Bard ultimate. M&S really doesn't. So if he ever is without flash, they're going to very easily be able to kill him.
Owner beginning to bully a bit here in the enemy jungle. He's just going straight at Blabber. He's got the push in the top side. Blabber is not going to hit that one. He's taking damage from the little Krugs here, and he nearly loses his life, but he is going to flash out of this one as now here comes Keria, flash forward, extremely aggressive, and once again Berserker just going to kind of laugh at him.
And they're just putting pressure on in top side and bottom side here in the 2v2 once again. Keria using the journey to put that pressure on, does commit the flash this time around, doesn't find a ton of success, but they are really just trying to tax C9 everywhere. Knowing Blabber was topside, knowing he was pushed out there, he's forced to flash and Fudge. Now level 6 is up.
Oh, he's taken way too much damage from that equalizer already. He's going to go straight into the death chamber. First blood given over to Owner in the top lane.
I mean, that was just perfectly done. That play was about 45 seconds in the making as well. Jarvan invading Blabber's jungle, pushing him down. Also, Zeus maximizing his experience to hit 6 at the right time. Very, very hard for C9 to counter that. Big play for T1.
Yeah, he's going to be able to pick up his Sork shoes as well off of this play. And yeah, he doesn't have teleport, but the wave is fine. He's going to be able to get back to lane without really any cost here. Fudge at least was able to, you know, proxy that wave and return to lane on that first back without using his, so he can get back to lane right away. But that's a massive amount of gold going into a Rumble's pocket early on.
Yeah, it's a pretty good start for T1.
Yeah, feels pretty good for them.
I'm sorry, Jet.
So far.
It's not great.
We'll see how this game develops. You know, T1 did struggle a bit against TL early, but he's got the shockwave and he's looking to get the flash, and that he will. M&S just going to get out of dodge.
That's all Faker needed to do. He didn't have to burn any summoner spells in order to get the flash of M&S, so now when Jarvan hits level 6, he can just move in and ult M&S if M&S ever moves past the halfway point. So not only do they get the top kill, they get the mid summoner spell flash that they needed, which lets them move to this Drake pretty uncontested.
Well, I was going to say, when you use that at that timing to grab flash, then you know, this is before 6, but Owner can use his flag and drag to threaten that with Faker stealing the shockwave, and now you've grabbed Dragon Control. And I mean, this is just T1's map to rule right now.
All right, Berserker trying to take an aggressive trade here. He's level 5 against Guma's level 5. Does have some help from Blabber, who was shadowing them down on the bottom side of the map, but not going to amount to too much. Skuma just walks away from this one as double control ward. It's going to be some free gold over to C9, I suppose.
Take their time killing those. Just a quick reminder on what's at stake here as well. Both these teams are 1-1 in the Swiss stage. A win won't advance them, a lose won't eliminate them, but it will put them into either an elimination game or a promotion game. So 2-1 is obviously way better, because then that means you'll get 2 chances to play best of 3s, where if you win 1, you'll advance. Loser goes into the 1-2 pool and will be on the brink of elimination.
And there are some top teams down there as well. There will be after today. And Keria here, a little bit overextended, just going to grab some Spell Thief's Edge stacks, and they're not going to commit anything towards him, despite his flash still being down. His owner's not done yet with this harassment here on the top side. He's got level 6.
Yeah, this time it's even more powerful. He has the push in the top side again. The ult blown down on the bottom lane. Those Sven going on in as Keria just trying to walk this one out, but the Zeri ultimate just going to push T1's bottom lane back, as they will not take that fight at this point in time.
Yeah, C9 doing their best to try and make something happen. That top side is just getting absolutely steamrolled, though, by T1. Really rough start for Blabber. You really would love to be able to get that first Rift Herald as the Belveth, but he is just behind in experience since that early invade by Owner, since the Rumble has been able to push top, and is really struggling to get the farm you need to take over the game as Belveth.
Yeah, the no magic mantle that Fudge has right now isn't going to be doing too much at this stage, obviously with the Sork shoes already online, and You know, if you lose this Herald as C9, you're not going to be able to get Jax accelerated for the mid game. It's just not going to happen. Belbeth, as we were talking about in the draft, would love to have that power, get Jax some additional plates, but as it is right now, he just doesn't have any agency here in the top lane. Now, they did stop the Herald take here. They are grouping for this.
This is going to be really interesting because Sven left a while ago, leaving Berserker down bot lane for a long time. It's allowed Keria to push the wave, recall, and now be on the way to Rift Herald, which wouldn't give C9 time to kill it.
2v2 at the top side. The Equalizer getting some big value, and now Owner is going to join up with this one as they do want to extend this play, but not sure if they want to overextend as Sven has come on in. The Flag and Drag goes in up to the recon. His Owner just doesn't give a damn. He has Keria behind him, gets him in the death chamber. The ultimate comes out, and everybody is going down on the side of C9 in the top lane. T1 just burning them to a crisp in the top lane.
Well, that'll be 4 kills for T1 now in this early game, an over 2,500 gold lead, and it was off the play there. Owner's top side, he saves Cataclysm so long there to make sure he can get the most value out of it. Then Keria gets the double ultimate there to lock 2 in place, and Guma,
he's gonna force the flash, has to use his ult, but that's still gonna be a win. You'll always trade your ult for that flash there.
Absolutely, but now you're looking at a Rumble with 5 Dark Seal stacks. This, of course, does give the Herald over as well.
What a dream start for T1. Playing around Zeus's Rumble for all the games that Faker missed in the summer split, even though they didn't win that many. When they did, it was often off the back of Zeus, and he's been so dominant in that top lane. Right here, even though the ultimate was used early, it gets them low enough that gives, and I feel like C9 had a little bit of confidence here. I don't exactly know why.
Well,
because,
I mean, the problem too is that he can flag and drag away from the counter-strike here, and Fudge is then forced way too far up, and you've taken so much damage already as Fudge here. You can't stick around in the fight for any extended period of time. It's not like you have any sustained damage in your members, whereas Zeus has all the sustained damage you could ever want in a skirmish like this. As long as he's at full health and he's untouched, you lose those.
Oh boy, here we go again. I feel like Keria is just kind of playing with his food at this point. Berserker has dealt with this many a time, but now he doesn't have flash, so we've got to be careful about that. But yeah, Keria gets up to the top side. I think they thought it was a 3v2 for a while, and maybe they could just isolate Owner, but it was just not meant to be.
Yeah.
And now T1 have really turned the scales in their favor. Over 3,000 gold in the lead already.
Yeah, I kind of feel like C9 was stuck between a couple of bad choices. Either they just reset and let the Rift Herald go over, in which case they're already down in gold, they're getting bled out, Belbeth falls further behind, or go for a low percentage play, which has bigger drawbacks if it doesn't work. And unfortunately for them, it did not work. The second dragon is spawning. T1 also has control of the river. So C9 is absolutely on the back foot, and T1 is, I feel like, in their comfort zone. This is what they live for. Big gold lead, able to engage any fight they want, and they're doing it.
Absolutely. Well, of course, this is still the feature matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, Gumayusi versus Berserker. And there has been a lot of action in the bottom lane. We'll have to wait and see how those 280 carries do scale up and who is going to get the better of this game by the end of it. As the top lane talked a lot about it.
Well, I mean, we did see, of course, that win probability powered by AWS earlier, and I think your guess is as good as theirs at this point in time. It looked very heavily favored even 12 minutes into this game. And that bottom matchup has been, it's currently deathless for both AD carries, but Keria put all the pressure on. Guma forced that flash out earlier. He still doesn't have it, and now he can't really defend this turret without help. And Belbeth is in the main base, so Blabber can't help out, and this is just straight up T1 grabbing plates here, essentially for free. And they may not even need to commit the Herald here. Might just want to drop it somewhere else, and that looks like that's what they're going to do.
I think pretty easy to drop at mid lane as well, get a little bit of extra gold on a Faker. He's the only person on the team who isn't currently ahead. That's also the one lane that wasn't naturally winning early, so wouldn't shock me if they just use this bot pressure, push people back in the river, and look for a fight or drop the Herald mid.
While they're over the wall, they're looking for Sven as he is going to get dunked on, and he's got one hope, his ultimate ability, but that's not going to do enough as he was alone. 1v4 as T1 come over the wall, you know, not playing against a lot of bards, I would imagine, but that ability to just attack you in your own jungle, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, you already don't have a lot of vision. You're already having to pre-plan around a lot, and then that happens. Zeus actually getting a little bit caught here.
Zeus is going to walk it out. I mean, he's still up a level as the ultimate committed to there by Fudge. And you talked about the Rift Herald. It is going to be dropped in mid lane. And this might just be a full turret. I mean, C9 not really in a position to defend this, as finally some people are coming over. Owner is just going for a little walk behind the turret just for fun. I mean, I don't even know what he's doing. He doesn't seem to care.
Showboating, maybe. I can't really think of any other reason to do that than to have a little bit of fun, because they know they're up 4,000 gold. I feel like they're really in their comfort zone right now.
He had the portal there, wasn't able to take it to get back over the wall, but took the long way around. Perhaps afraid Blabber was coming down faster than he expected, but ultimately it doesn't matter. But this is what you were talking about in terms of the engage range here. Look at this, getting Faker into position to help lock Sven down. Yeah, he gets away from the Everfrost, tries to hold out, but the Cataclysm is going to keep him in place, so he's just simply dead. No way out of that one, and that's what you're dealing with Bard, is just putting these melee engaged champions into range of slippery champions like Zeri, of slippery champions like Rakan. They feel fairly safe even without vision when you know generally where people are, but they can go through walls.
Looks about right.
MasterCard lane economy snapshot. It is, well, Faker's only up 31 gold. The rest of the map, very heavily favored on the top side, plus the plates you would imagine down on the bottom side that give Guma and Keria their lead down there.
Yeah, I think even at this state in the game, there's an extremely low chance that C9 loses. And currently the disappointing thing about this game for C9 is all the plays that C9 may have been dodging in the early game, like Keria flying over the wall and throwing Qs at Berserker and Berserker juking them. There was never like a counter play that C9 would be able to make.
Fudge in a lot of trouble. He flashes onto the other side of the equalizer. Zeus just tanking this one up. Fudge is still alive underneath this turret. He's just going to get flagged from the heavens as Owner going to pick up his 4th kill in this game.
And here's another example. They spent so long on that dive top, so there's 3 people for C9 bottom trying to make the counter happen. Let's see if C9 can at least get a turret.
I mean, they're going to try to here. Keria does have ult. This is going to be very difficult to pull off, and Faker, of course, can hijack something as well. Could grab the shockwave here and try to defend with it. I don't think they're going to be able to get much. Meanwhile, Berserker can't defend this turret by himself. This is a cannon wave, so get the top side play to be a success. Unfortunately, Fudge's flash not good enough to get away from that Cataclysm and the equalizer. He's impaled by the flag. They lose top turret, mid turret's down. They find nothing bottom side. 15 minutes and 45 seconds in. Those bounties are up, objective bounties are up, but there is just nothing to take on this rift. And I mean, we are on pace. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but we are on pace for a perfect game here potentially for T1.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf, you've been here for the summer split struggles of T1.
I have, yes.
Right, the MSI disappointment, Faker's wrist injury, falling to, what was it, 7-7?
Yeah.
And then Faker coming back and kind of scraping the team through playoffs. Where would you put how they look in this game compared to how they looked in the summer split?
They look very coordinated, and the thing that happened when Faker was gone, it was not that Poby, his replacement, was so weak comparatively they couldn't play the game. It was really just about the lack of shot calling, and they had a clear game plan to play around Zeus this game, put the pressure on bottom side at the same time. And Faker, if he had fallen further behind in lane, if MNS had actually been able to find some success there, maybe there would have been a pressure point for Blabber, but it feels like Owner is just one step ahead of Blabber this entire time.
Yeah.
I think Faker coming in as a leader, that's always been his role in recent years, right? We've all known the Faker moments. We've all seen the LeBlanc plays. We've all seen the Zed versus Zed. But in recent years, he has kind of been that big voice. And you could clearly feel the preparation going into this series is much stronger than we saw at the latter part of summer season without him.
Yeah, I feel like going through World's history, you know, things Faker does. 2013, always these amazing mechanical outplays. Things Faker does has changed a lot in the last 11 years. Now the thing Faker does is get a bunch of really mechanically talented players around him, hold his own in mid lane, and press his F keys really good and talk.
He's been pressing his keys pretty well. Owner, once again, maybe it's showboating, I'm not sure. Owner in a little bit of trouble as he does have some help from his squad, but he is going to be able to get away. Blabber gets hooked by the feathers, and now there's a massive equalizer on the entirety of C1, C9 rather, trying to retreat out of this one. That's a huge play comes out from Keria, and they turn this one around, and even the tower can't get into this one, as Keria will disable that. This might just be a clean ace going into the hands of T1, and that it is. Nobody will fall on the side of T1.
An insane win here for T1, but we all saw it coming. They had control over the dragon, and at this point in time, Owner is just so tanky, he could absorb a lot of that damage, and as the turn begins, it feels almost tool-assisted the way that T1 chased the fight. And the way the equalizer is set up by Zeus, we'll watch this play again, as Owner takes all of the aggression here as they kite back through, missed Extendo Beam here from Berserker. And look at the equalizer positioning as it goes through this brush. It is just so clean, and no one on C9 can avoid this equalizer damage except Sven. He's only get over the wall. You can't flash out, you're on a fat wall, and now you're trapped between this wall here and Carria's re-engage. He goes through with the magical journey, sets up the stun, disables the turret so they can further deep dive here, and you are just not gonna get out. If you were Cloud9, you were just trapped between a rock and a hard place. One of our famous LCK lines.
All right, so it's only 9,000 gold at 18 minutes. This is definitely, this is one of the most lopsided games we have seen all Swiss stage.
And we've seen some big ones too.
Yeah, we have.
We've had a couple of 24-minute games as well. And, you know, Wolf was talking about it before. We're on pace for a perfect game. That's just going to be Berserker dead for free. There's just no help under the turret. He has flash, but no time to react. And T1 are just taking whatever they want on this map right now.
Yeah, certainly looking very much like this game is not going much longer. I mean, we're talking about it's Chemtech Soul. That's one thing you put in the positives column. It's not like they're getting Hextech Soul on this next Dragon here, but the map is completely open. This Herald is going to take out the inner. Will likely get a charge here on that inhibitor turret if they want to commit to it. They don't even have to. And T1 have control over every zone on the map. Look at the wards they have to the top side of the jungle as well towards a Baron that will be spawning in 10 seconds. You've got to clear all of that as C9 before you can even think about the contest.
It's quite clinical what T1 has been able to do this game. Good timing on the first 3 Drakes. Really good timing on this last reset as well so that they can move towards Baron on spawn.
That's a T1 classic.
I mean, they do flip a lot of Barons. They actually move towards Baron on spawn even if they're not up 11,000 gold.
It's true, but this time they are, and Faker, I mean, he's drawn 3, 4, 5 people
just
down to the bottom side of the map, and yes, they will get this objective bounty.
Not a perfect game, chat.
Not a perfect game, but it's a perfect Baron. Nobody is going to contest them on that one. As we saw the win probability once again powered by AWS, it looked like 100% actually this time. There wasn't even like a little blip.
Yeah, that's about right. This would be a higher win probability than G2's comeback on day 2 when they were at a 99.4% chance of losing.
Yeah, I think we might be adding 50 gold for the Nexus on this Red Bull Baron power play if they wanted to push it further. But just to be safe, they will of course sync up the waves. They're going to put Faker in the bottom lane here. And Blabber.
Hey, he got the blue buff.
Yeah.
You know what?
At what cost,
That's pretty good. He got the buff. Oh, no, he's in a lot of trouble. Yeah, he's being chased down here by Owner. I think that carry is just going to let him do the 1v1 thing, and there he goes, dunked into the ground.
I say this a lot, but it's hard to criticize teams that are in positions like this, 13,000 gold behind. I mean, you could say there's no way he has any right to that blue buff, but if you just sit in your base, what are you doing at this point? I mean, T1 have won this game, and everything that happens from now on, and frankly, everything that happened from 5 minutes ago on is really hard to criticize for C9. There really is no correct play.
Now Faker is just doing a dance in the enemy base at this point in time, picks up the quickness and just kind of shoves it in their face as T1. You know, they're on pace to try to break one of the fastest games that we have had here in the Swiss stage. The turrets of the Nexus are already going down. C9, they're gonna have to make one last stand, and they get the knock up here on a Zeus who loses a total of 0 health at this point in time as the Bard ultimate comes out as well. And Carry is having a lot of fun at this point. Fudge is in that back line, but he's just going to be ripped to shreds by the Feathers once again. As T1 will play with their food, they will get what they deserve after this victory. As down will go the Nexus. T1 will move on to 2-1 in the Swiss stage.
Really dominant showing by T1. This is the team that T1 fans wanted to have show up at the World Championship. It moves them to 2-1. Unfortunately, both those wins were against North American seeds, but that's what happens at the World Championship. You have to be able to beat LCK and LPL teams if you want to be moving on. So C9 gonna have to just take that one on the chin and come back stronger next time.
Yeah, I think the difference in Owner's play in this game and some of the other games we've seen in Worlds, you could definitely feel it. I think Owner's been one of the most heavily criticized T1 players in Worlds thus far, despite, you know, only being 1-1, and yet he showed up in a big way, played through Zeus topside there, prevented any sort of Belveth lead, no early Rift Herald there, and it wasn't necessarily a draft problem here, but they tried to pinch Faker a little bit in this one. He got the Silas in the end. Game wasn't about Faker this time at all. It was all about the topside.
Top side, bot side as well. They were able to generate so many plays with the Xayah Bard. I mean, I think all the way back to the draft phase, C9, it was an interesting draft because 4 of the 6 most banned champions from main stage made it through the ban phase, so there were definitely a lot of switch-ups, but T1 is not going to be unhappy about anything that happened this game, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so. A 21.5-minute win for the side of T1. But now, guys, let's see what the guys on the analyst desk have to say. Let's throw it over to Shanks and Chronicler and Azale.
Thank you very much. I feel like I have 2 very contrasting feelings next to me after that game for the side of C9. Very disappointing for the side of T1. Just about the best game you can get.
Yeah, during the break, or during the game, actually, I inquired Hooney in the LCK, is the guy that decides if the rumble is okay or not. And I had to do the rumble check. It was 2 thumbs up. But also, the Jax.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know what my reaction to the Jax was backstage. As soon as C9 picked Jax, I was like, well, we lost. And if they lock in the Jax, I almost didn't want to watch the game. To me, it was such a disappointing pick.
You give me grief for Matt, and that what you say before the game starts?
It was such a disappointing pick because I just think even in an A, even if it wasn't against Zeus, I think it's so unplayable in that matchup that you're almost guaranteed giving up full topside control. If your jungler ever falls behind and can't cover you on one dive, then you instantly just lose the game because you can't get pushed ever. You're going to get harassed. You're going to get poked out. And T1 is a team that's going to kill you with a strategy like that. So I was really shocked that C9 went for it.
Are you disappointed that this is something, you know, we had the Poppy situation also earlier, right? Because I feel like when you go up as an underdog in a matchup like this, the one thing you can't do is leave such a big hole at one part of the map to start with, right?
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think, you know, if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of Cloud9, they were probably saying, all right, Blabber's going to get ahead of the Jarvan on the Bel'Veth. He's going to be able to cover dives, and then Jax is going to outscale, and we're going to win through side lanes, right? I think that's probably the thought process, but there's so many things that have to go right for that to ever become a reality. So to me, it was a really disappointing pick because I do think, you know, Cloud9 showed us against LNG that they can get through the early game. Mid and bot held up just fine. Fudge in the 1v1 even honestly was doing fine. It's just that T1 will crush you on these mistakes.
It's also, and I really want to reiterate this, this is not even remotely on Fudge's individual play. Like, he had 3 levels, which he used, right, went in early, aggressively early. But as Azil was saying, like, I think that Bel'Veth, as strong as she is, into J4, I think it's favored, but it's not. Jarvan still has a lot of early agency, and the moment that you start losing that matchup, you have 0 things that you can do. Like, I agree with you, like, from that point on, and T1 in particular, you know they're going to try, right? You need to have the tools to absorb that initial all-in, because if you don't, like, they're going to get an early lead, and T1 with an early lead is not fun to play against.
And the Oppo player of the game for this one is Owner, and I think in the context of kind of the season that Owner has had, Maurits, this is good for him, a confidence game.
It's really, really important to get these type of games. And the reason why, it's between Owner or Zeus, right? Yes. I think that for Owner specifically, he was the crux, because Zeus is always going to win this 1v1, but if Owner loses the jungle matchup, then that means that they can't really get the full power out of this Ignite Rumble.
Exactly, they can't look for these dives. Something that we missed, you know, the first time when I was watching this, and in the replay, it actually cut to it too late, but the vision plant had tagged Blabber, so it wasn't fully blind. I believe he had a good idea of where he was going to be, so he hits him with the Flag and Drag, because if Owner Flag and Drags over and doesn't actually hit the Bel'Veth, he loses that duel 10 times out of 10. But was able to find that, was able to slam home the dive, and then was able to utilize that pressure on the map to get around, get back up towards top, dive Fudge again, make these plays alongside Carrier, who was being pretty proactive on the Bard as well. And Owner just played a pretty much immaculate game, and this is where everything just went completely pear-shaped for Cloud9.
Yeah, this dive, I think, beautifully set up, but at that point, the game was already done, right? This is just adding insult to injury.
Apparently, so.
Well, I mean, I think that
That's how it felt. I'm not
really,
gonna lie.
to me, it's that first play, the moment that they're able to get the Bel'Veth behind, then unlock the Ignite Rumble, and then from that point on, I don't think it's playable. And again, yeah, as you pointed out, Shooks, for Owner specifically, he needs to have these type of games, because last year I think it was incredible. This year, it's been a lot more ups and downs, and I think that these are the type of games that if he can string them together, the fans will regain their faith.
He has to have a good game in these. Yes, very good from the side of T1 for Cloud9. Back to the drawing board. Of course, not out of it yet. Now going into best of 3s to fight for their tournament life. But next up, we have NRG versus Mad. So it's going to get spicy.
He's forced to flash and fudge. Now level 6 is up.
Oh, he's taken way too much damage from that equalizer already. He's going to go straight into the death chamber. Goes in up to the Rakan. His owner just doesn't give a damn. He has Carrier behind him. Gets him in the death chamber. As the ultimate comes down and everybody is going down. C9 rather trying to retreat out of this one. That's a huge play comes out from Carrier. And they turn this one around. And even the tower can't get into this one. As Carrier will disable that. This might just be a clean ace going into the hands of T1. And that it is.
Bringing in a new roommate to save money, is that the plan?
Say hi to Glenn from work.
Yeah, I think I have a much better plan. We switched to my plan from Verizon.
That is a good plan. Glenn.
Get my plan starting at just $25 when you bring your own phones. Plus, save when you add perks like the Disney Bundle. It's your Verizon.
See the prize and it's mine, ain't no option. I am on fire, you just tired, heat exhaustion. Yeah, boy, you fired, get surprised, I'm the boss now. Re-strategize, you can try, this is high. Impact, feedback, erase, better retract. Used to kill, but I gave it up, you stepping up on my relapse. Let's get it going, start the show, tell your king came to overthrow. Next thing you know, I'm at your throat, didn't even see me coming, did you though? Ain't no way you can keep up. Hey, keep up. I've been waiting. Come and get me. Ain't no way you can keep up. Nah, I've been waiting. Let me see. Make them holler, make them bleed. How you gonna keep up? Come and get me. Come and get me. If you can keep up. 1 and 2 and 3 to the 4. I won't be staying long, I just can't let you know. Ain't playing with you puppets, y'all can't mess with your pet toe. I dropping Mary Poppins, ain't no stopping, so let's go. Let's get it in, let's finish this. When the game tired, just send me in. Whole crew, we militant, we just come through and break ligaments. Your crew need medicine, y'all big dogs and we elephants. You don't want trouble, don't let us in. You ain't ready now, you ain't relevant. Keep up. Ain't no way you can keep up. Keep up. Said I've been waiting, so come and get me. Ain't no way you can keep up. Waiting, let me see. Make them holler, make them bleed. How you gonna keep up? Come and get me. Come and get me. Only if you can keep up.
one, as it is that time again. NA versus you, NRG versus Mad. Both teams are at 1-1, looking to move to 2-1, which would be a much better position to be in. And I'm excited. I'm always hyped for them. I'm hyped, okay? Let's just leave it at that, Azale.
I'm excited too. And I want to say, I feel like Europe needs to support Mad. They need to actually rally behind this team, because I have felt like somewhat unfairly, people are always on this team's back. They're always roasting them. I see so many comments every time, you know, if they do lose to NA, oh, they're not a European team. We don't claim them. We don't support them. This team has won 3 titles in the last couple years in the LEC. They are one of your best teams. They've made it out of groups before. And I do think they are deserving of the support and the respect of the region, even if they haven't had the results that you're hoping for.
Yeah, there is one thing in particular, I think, that really hurts us. And it's the record versus NA teams, because you can lose to LCK, you can lose to the LPL, you can get stomped in 1647, I do not care. But that record is just so painful to see. But all jokes aside though.
Come on, look at them. That's so wholesome.
Getting warmed up. So to give a little bit of context, and I think you're completely correct, Azale, this is a top 3, top 2 team in Europe. And I think
it happened for 3 years.
We see the peak of this team when Elyoya is on point, when he can team up with Hilly, who's having one of his crazy games, when Carzzy is going insane and has these 1v10 games. And I guess the frustration has come from that we've seen that, but then we don't see it at the international tournament as much.
And I mean, the reality is, it's just a higher level of competition. You know, you're playing against better teams. And this happens to all the NA teams as well. And it was always such a pet peeve of mine when TSM or whoever would go international and have a bad performance, and people like, they didn't deserve to be there. This other team that didn't qualify would have done better. No, they wouldn't. They got beat by them. They didn't. They deserve to be there because they qualified, because they won the split, because they got top 3. You know, this is the thing that always frustrates me. It's like, you have to respect the fact that these players earned their right to be here. They are one of the best teams in Europe, and they do deserve the support.
Do you think it's the monkey paw situation? Niski, he was like, yes, okay, I have to leave C9 and I'll end up on Mad and find great success and win in Europe, but I can never beat NA.
You know what? I think there might be something. Now for me,
turned him.
Obviously, I'm just here to enjoy the game, right? And I think that with these 2 teams in particular, I'm going to be looking towards specifically the draft and how much early game power there is, because the game that Elyoya showed with his Bel'Veth early invades, completely shutting out BDS right from the get-go, is exactly what I think they need to replicate here to not let NRG play their game, because that team, it baffles me sometimes, but the level of cohesiveness they show, I think, can be really tough to deal with.
I mean, both teams can have really good performances and really poor performances. NRG and Mad had got very similar trajectory. They both had a rough game 1, and then they both absolutely stomped their second game here. Elyoya was great in this one. You know, had that topside invade. It was a really nice pre-planned strategy where they had both their solo laners invade with him as well. So it was a 3-man invade towards Raptors. They got him ahead. Then he stole the Krugs, and he was really able to snowball this game. And this was kind of the decisiveness that you wanted to see out of Mad. And I think it's similar to the story, again, from NRG, who has had really impressive performances, really incredible games. They absolutely trashed TL, who looked great the day before, but you just don't know which NRG is going to show up. And both these teams need to play with confidence. They need to come into this knowing that they can win, and this is one of the best possible draws for both teams that you could have had in the 1-1 area.
So you're saying it's actually quite similar in terms of they can show their full potential, but it's very, very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And whenever they go cross-region is where they seem to have trouble channeling exactly that, what they could domestically.
And I think that is also further aggravated by the fact that we're playing best of ones. If you're in a high volatility team and you're in a best of one scenario, like one misread draft, one priority that doesn't quite add up, and one early game that goes wrong, and it can feel like there isn't really anything for you to do, what do you take away from that point?
Yeah, it's tough, right? And I think that's where it comes back to the mentality, to be able to, you know, kind of collect yourself, stay calm, stay cool, you know, play your style, have confidence in that. I mean, Palafox at his best really is incredible. I mean, this was a matchup that APA played the day before against Faker, was doing very well in it, and it gets solo killed here by Palafox, and Palafox just ran away with this game. And this is one of those things that he did in the LCS throughout playoffs, was winning both sides of the matchups against APA. When he's at his best, he really can be a force to be reckoned with, and NRG can be active on the map. Contracts is a guy that plays so heavily for his laners. He's almost the antithesis of Blabber, in that Blabber really prioritizes his farm, where Contracts is willing to drop so many camps to always hover his laners, put them in a good spot. And so it's something that you really have to watch out for. If NRG is in a good spot, you have to be ready for the fact that Blabber could be right behind him.
look at the split, look at the difference, right? Like right from the get-go. And versus Weibo, I think what's really telling is also that the moment that they started falling behind, it didn't feel like there was any way back in. And versus TL was the opposite. It felt like TL never had a single shot.
Exactly, two very different games, and let's see if it's the LEC or the LCS in terms of the fandom that have the upper hand in our MasterCard fan prediction of the day. You can vote every day at mastercard.gg on X to participate, and NRG won the poll, 52%.
Is this the first fan vote that an NA team has won at Worlds?
It might be.
I think it is.
I also think that this is very apt, given what we've seen of the two teams so far. I think this should be very, very close. So, fans, nailing it this time.
Yes, I'm excited for it. I hope they get down and dirty and we see a lot of fighting, a lot of back and forth, and a lot of banter on Twitter. Oh my God. Please shield their eyes so they don't see that sign. Please, cast.
Wait, what jersey is he wearing? I want to know.
Oh, I wonder. Zil, how are you feeling?
Thank you, guys on the desk. We'll have to wait and see how this one is going to go. Hopefully not as fast as the first one, as we didn't have a lot of action. You know, it's very one-sided at least.
Maybe faster than the first one could also be good, depending on what kind of fan you are. I will say, it is really worrying for me if NRG is winning the fan vote, because in North America, they were this weird team. They're 9-9 in the summer split. Almost all of their wins came from playing against the top 4 teams, and almost all their losses were against the bottom of the pack. So if Mad Lions actually is bottom of the pack, that's really bad for non-rational gaming.
I think that as the narrative has gone, that a lot of LEC fans have abandoned Mad Lions, but I think that they absolutely could take this game. Now, I think one of the best things they could do in the draft to ensure that that happens is to ban Palafox's Orianna. They have done that. It's the first ban here on Red side. I think absolutely a must ban against this player. He's been fantastic on the pick. And we'll see what he plays now that the champion pool's thinned out by that so critical champion he's played so well so far this tournament.
I completely agree. And really quickly, as Azael said, I also feel like it's strange how European fans have abandoned Mad Lions. And we were talking before this cast of like, because last cast, you know, I was the NA guy, you were the LCK guy. I can be both, because I can be both Mad and NRG, because literally they're 1-6 against North America. If they win this game, those 6 North American wins just become more impressive. So I'm actually, I think it's a win-win either way.
Now, this Yuumi pick is just here to scare everyone. It's not actually going to happen. Don't worry.
Akshan too.
Akshan as well.
That's not Doran, though. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. We'll see what they want to prioritize here. There's a lot of high prio picks here. The Maokai is available. The Xayah was gone. Obviously, the Kalista is gone here. So, will be the Maokai. I think it works with almost every type of composition. And it looks like here potentially Chasey's Rumble to come out to answer. I think this pick is quite strong right now. We saw it have great success when it's played around last game. But I'm wondering now, is Jace going to be what they're looking for here with this Maokai? Because that seems to be, to me, the biggest synergy that Maokai has right now in this meta.
I think absolutely. We might even see Kaisa come out as well, because Maokai just makes poke champions so strong. Palafox is a big Jace player. We'll see, though, against Niski. Maybe they want to change it up a little bit. And there is Alistair, which kind of baits you into a Silas pick as well as a takeaway. But the Jace is the thing that makes the most sense.
Definitely does. That's the Kaisa you were talking about. The Xayah banned away. And in terms of tier list, with Kalista and Xayah gone,
it's a poke comp.
It's a poke comp. The Kaisa goes really well with it. It's very high tier, so they're going to get 3 extremely good picks on the side of NRG, but also
it's
on the
a
side
hard
of
engage
Mad.
comp.
Yeah. I mean,
you're going to send it.
You've got, when you're going up against Poke, you have to close that gap, right? Poke is the range that you have to somehow get on top of. The Maokai can be great defensively, of course, in stopping those types of engages, but isn't going to stop a Rumble ultimate flanking Jarvan. Now, let's see how thinned out Niski's champion pool does get here, because another option could have been grabbing the Azir here. Feels fairly safe into Jace, does close that gap. Great for defensive options as well, and offers a lot of damage back in those neutral fights or over objectives. So if I'm NRG here, I think that's one of the picks I'm definitely looking to take away from Niski right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Silas ban as well for Energy, just because I think Niski's an exceptional melee player, but the Azir ban makes a lot of sense as well because of the lane prio, as you talked about. I do wonder exactly what Dokla will end up going with, because the Rumble is just a really hard matchup, and they've now banned 3 top laners, so Dokla is going to have a really good game despite getting targeted in the draft. And also for Mad Lions, they were at their best when they were playing through Chasey, and so far this draft is allowing them to do so.
Sivir removed here as well. A lot of wave clear opportunities with that pick, and now denied here. And obviously the Xayah is gone. In terms of scaling 80 carry picks, I mean, the Zeri has been the most popular in these types of situations. I don't think we're going to be seeing something like an Aphelios. Doesn't really fit the theme of this composition. I think you could definitely lock that one in right now and save that 5th pick for the mid lane, if that's what they want to do. It's going to be Neela, though, our first of the tournament. Did not expect that.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit worried. You were talking about this area. I was thinking, please not Ezreal. But Neela, I mean, that's going to be really fun. I mean, this is a pick that can also hard engage alongside of it. The rest of the comp, that is. So will be interesting to see if Carzzy can pilot that to a top level.
Yeah, 1 loss all time for Carzzy on Neela. So definitely not even one of like his pocket picks. It's just crazy that we're seeing it here, honestly.
Now, Dokwa loves to play Jax. It is available. We saw it just get absolutely... Oh, it's banned. No, my bad. I was going to say, I would really hate to see it here, but it is banned. So, thank you for that call out. Valdez pointed out to me right away. Because that's the one pick I would absolutely not want to see here. We already saw it destroyed by Rumble and Jarvan just moments before. Let's see what he wants to go with, because you could go for Ornn for implementing your scaling later on, and it does give a little bit more mid-game fighting power and some late-game engage. Well, looks like they're going to flex the Jace top here potentially and put that Sylas there into the mid lane. So a late last-minute swap to come through. Very strong into the Alistar. Great ultimates to steal.
And I guess you could also, like, they can wait until 20 seconds to decide mid or top lane. Dokla, back in the day, was a big top Jace player. So both of these guys have a lot of experience playing carry tops. I doubt we'll see the Sylas top lane, but they honestly could, if they really wanted to, stack a bunch of MR early against the Rumble. So a bit of a flex pick there for NRG. They were huge enjoyers of flex picks all throughout the summer split. They actually pioneered the Kai'Sa Rel 1-2, and they'd play Kai'Sa mid, and they'd play Rel in the jungler support, so they had this double flex going on. Kind of love the draft for NRG.
The Taliyah will ultimately, Valdez, be the pick that Niski goes with here. And looking at things, if they hadn't picked the Sylas, there was a real chance that Niski was going to pick that up himself. Obviously, steal the Maokai ult, and then you can use that against this composition. But I do think that I'd much rather see Jace top here, and we are going to see that, it looks like, as these final seconds do tick down, just because Sylas is going to struggle against this Jarvan Rumble lane if he is isolated there against Maokai. Not going to be able to help out as much. Overall, I think this is going to be a game about keep away for NRG, and for Mad is trying to close that distance all in. They have such great engage options.
Yeah, and the Taliyah follow-up into the Sylas, as it does look like that is going to be heading in there. And let's see how this one goes, as the coaches will give the fist bumps on the stage. We will be getting ready to jump into the second game of the day, the second of 4 that we do have on the slate for you guys today. Of the teams that are 1-1, trying to either make it into an advancement match later on in the tournament, or move down into a kind of defeat match, where if you do get knocked out there, you are done for the tournament. So we'll have to wait and see who is going to take that next step towards the winner's side of the bracket.
So much on the line for these two teams, I think, in terms of pride. Of course, the pride of North America for NRG, but Mad trying to regain some of that fan sentiment after having a bit of a struggle lead into this tournament. Hype wasn't high for them. They managed to maintain that 1-1 to go 2-1. Gives you hope that maybe they could win that promotion series.
Absolutely. There is unfortunately a brief pause at the start of this game that we hope gets resolved soon. But it is very interesting looking at the way this format is playing out, specifically for NRG and Mad, which makes this game even more important. The winner will move to 2-1. And let's just think about what these teams will have had to do to get there, right? NRG draws Weibo, maybe a hard first-round draw, considering they could have gotten the Gigamite Marines or BDS, but they lose that game. Then they get a domestic team kill against TL, who they beat in 2 best-of-5s throughout the regular season, and now this game against Mad Lions. So literally they could be 2-1 by beating a team they beat domestically and then beating Mad Lions. Whereas you compare that to a team like, let's say, G2, who will also be 2-1. They had to beat the 4 seed from LCK, the 4 seed from LPL, and then lost to Gen G, but they will be literally the same, depending on what happens in this game. Mad Lions as well will have only beaten BDS and NRG to make it to 2-1 if they, in fact, do so.
Yeah, we'll come down to this one to see who will have that in their pockets. But guys, you can connect your League of Legends account with Prime Gaming to
look
grab
out,
the
Yoya.
exclusive experimentation emotes. As you might use that in this situation, Elyoya in a really bad spot. He doesn't have much where to go, and he does not have his flash. That should be the end of it, as First Blood is given over to Palafaker.
Oh boy, well that is not the start you are looking for if you are a Mad Lions fan, and that is a huge early lead. First Blood going over to the Sylas here. Palafox picks it up. Some assist gold shared as well amongst his teammates.
I know we call him Palafaker, but we literally just saw Faker on Sylas, and he didn't have a kill in the first 20 minutes. This guy got a kill in the first, like, 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's true.
Speed running.
I think
I'm giving you nothing. I'm sorry.
It might have something to do with that C9, actually respected the Sylas level 1 engage, and we did not necessarily see that here from the side of Mad.
Look, Valdez and I hold Faker very sacred, okay? I've seen a lot of mid laners try to call themselves Faker. We have, seen Faker Dage, for example. We've seen a lot of North American mid laners.
A lot of Faker imposters throughout the years.
Imposters in the LCS. But in this case, we'll give him credit because it was a good play set up in part by his teammates. They do end up punishing very early on. Elyoya is now flashless.
Level 2, I mean, you got to respect this. Palafox getting in Niski's face. And this can be a good matchup, but not if you're getting chunked out this early on in the lane. So definitely going to have to look out for that one for Niski, as we'll take a look at the replay and what exactly happened here.
Elyoya just wants to check vision with his flag and see what's going on. He steps up too far, and they set a trap for that potential situation.
Yeah, that's just a really good level 1 by NRG. I haven't checked, but they may have checked that Elyoya does that a lot early game when he's trying to prevent an invade, especially on Jarvan, and just knowing your ranges as the Sylas. Like going East start right there to hop over the wall ends up paying off big time for Palafox and NRG.
He's picked up a Dark Seal now with some of that extra gold, and he is feeling very good about his start to this game. Talk about some of the matchups here. Obviously, the Taliyah into Sylas. Taliyah can have that large advantage in terms of range and some poke. Up here on the top side, this is a matchup that's a lot more comfortable than a lot of melee matchups you'll face with Rumble because you can offer some damage back. But we're not going to talk about much more.
Level 2 Hex Flash. What are you? What is going on? Ignar trying to make some big plays early on.
Yeah, Ignar likes to gank. He's had a very interesting career making that World's quarterfinals run with Misfits back in 2017. Going to pause for a second as Elyoya thinks about scaring Dokla back. But Ignar really struggled when we went through the Enchanter meta, and I feel like is probably ecstatic that we're back to Rakan Alistar Rel, because that is absolutely what he succeeds in.
Yeah, there are a lot of players like that who do prefer the engaged supports. Ignar definitely on the list of those, trying to find his early advantage for his mid laner, further his advantage for his mid laner, but won't come up with anything. Now, Neela does have, of course, the ability to have an experience lead. You can see she's already level 4 here to FBI and Ignar's level 2 because of that shared experience that they're going to pick up with Hylissang. And he's going to be able to get 6 first for an upcoming objective fight, as we're going to hold our thought on that, as once again, Elyoya lurking.
Spending a lot of time up here. As long as Dokla lets the wave crash without taking too much damage.
He's got contracts up here as well.
Oh, that's a good bait.
And here is Palafox as well, joining the party.
Yeah, I mean, they have to know Palafox was missing, so that's why they wouldn't have taken that bait from Dokla.
JC might have to flash here, as already the damage is coming out. Oh, Elyoya, he stayed, as he's not going to get that kill on a JC. Now Palafox a bit alone. Dokla just going to cancel his recall. Elyoya thinking about continuing on this one, but will just back away.
This is a fairly classic Palafox play in that it's very sacrificial, because think about what he just did. He roamed top lane, he burned all of his health, but what he did do is he got both summoner spells off the enemy Rumble. Niski gets a lot of time though. He free pushed a wave into turret. It's not going to get a plate, but it's going to start the process of getting mid push. And we'll see if it bails out Dokla, as Hilly has also made his psychopath roam. No one else is here. But he literally gets the flash because you think he must have backup if he's coming at me as an Alistar. So,
and it was a great call because they had a little bit of push bottom side, and at the same time you have Carzzy actually shadowing mid, so that Taliyah push actually does crash that additional wave into the turret, does some additional damage. So you can roam top side and actually look for that punish. So they grab a flash there. Nothing really lost bottom side. You can see Carzzy is catching the wave there under turret. and FBI will, of course, secure the scuttle and come back down, but that's a huge grab. Jace definitely needing Flash to survive some of the hard engage that we're going to have on these upcoming objective fights very soon.
Definitely going to be very important. A lot of action once again in this second game. A bit more even in this one compared to the one-sidedness of the first game that we did see. Saw that Niski pretty far ahead in terms of XP, getting some alone time in the mid lane. As here we go, Ignar trying to invade alongside of Contracts, getting in the face of Hylissang, who's just going to walk it off.
Not much they can
6.
do there. Dokla with a small experience advantage, but now that Rumble is level 6, you have to respect also the fact that Dokla needs to now play like weak side Jace. Makes him need to play super conservative, but Energy's going to be very happy with this. They got the level 1 gold onto Palafox, which allowed him to play a little bit less for himself because he's still going to be able to hit his item power spikes at the right time. And now Energy should be able to get this dragon.
Yeah, nothing Hilly can do about this, and Carzzy doesn't quite have level 6. They wouldn't have the damage. There's nobody nearby here. Niski is just going to try to push another wave through here to get a smaller advantage, but won't actually lead to anything. As up here.
Uh-oh. Elioya is here. We got Niski making his way over. He's got his wall in position. 3v1. Dokla and her big, but can you make this happen as the knockup comes in? The knockback as well as Dokla tries to trade it back, but it will just be a kill handed over to the Rumble in the top lane.
Yeah, really tough there for Dokla. I think Mad made a really nice counterplay for the Drake. That is more the type of play that Niski wants to make when he is at his best. He's a mid laner. He's the one who leaves. And he leaves for the rest of his team over and over again, making it a pretty impossible gank for Dokla to survive.
And a lot of this, of course, is off of Hilly getting that flash moments before, and then Niski comes over here because he has that push I was talking about. Yeah, he's not going to get a turret plate. It's not going to cost any minions, of course, per Palafox, but can make this play here topside with the Weaver's Wall because they have that wave pushed in. He has mid control. So every single action you make on the Rift leaves an opening for plays like this, and having the Talia allows you to roam so aggressively, and that's one of the powers of this pick early.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm very curious to see as well. You know, we haven't had a lot of action down on the bottom side, but even over in the LCK, we see a bunch of players trying to pick up the Nila, and to pretty decent success. Gumayusi's played it a lot. We've even seen Jiwoo playing it a bunch in the LCK, if you guys know that name. Definitely has the power. We've seen it, and especially alongside of Hard Engage, can just follow up in such a huge way that if Carzzy plays this to a top level, I'm excited to see what he can show here on the world stage with this champion. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, what Neela has is insane mobility as well as really strong engage with her ultimate, the Apotheosis. So closing the gap, if you can avoid that Maokai ultimate, is pretty easy for Neela, and then you could set up for a follow-up ult, you know, from the Cataclysm of Jarvan, of course, the Rumble ultimate, and you just layer all these ultimates on top of each other, on top of those big carries in the back line.
I'd say the only thing that Energy would want to have happen there is have Palafox get really fed. Because if you can be a level 16 Sylas, you can steal Alistar ultimate. There's a world where Mad just doesn't have enough damage to take him down, and Energy's team comp ends up being really durable. Other than that, it does seem like a pretty classic matchup of Poke with Maokai, Jace, Kai'Sa versus Hard Engage with Alistar, Jarvan, and
Dokla does not have his flash, and he's getting bullied again. This is 3v1. We do have Palafox trying to make his way up. Dokla just trying to survive. He's on fire, though, and down he will go. Contracts and Palafox trying to turn this one around. Can they burst down Chasey? Just a bit more damage as he has the equalizer. Is going to hit nothing, but they do take out the Rumble. Meanwhile, down to the bottom side, FBI trying to get away from two members. As Hylissang and Carzzy not quite able to get him down, and Ignar will also just run it out.
But a huge experience advantage for Mad Lions in the bottom lane, in part due to the Neela. I would say that that's a decent trade for Energy. It looked like there was just a straight up 3-for-1 gank, but Contracts and Palafox made enough ground. And if you're trading a Rumble kill for a Sylas kill plus a Rift Herald, that's a kill that Energy is going to take.
Go again. Ignar, though, is going to hit level 6. As you can see, Carzzy's just taking 0 damage. He's just running at them, and Ignar not going to go for the play there.
And not going to commit any further here. Looking for a back under this control ward. Hylissang going to try to spot this out. Will stop the back. Should be able to clear that ward as well with Elioya's help. Elioya's wrapping around. This might not be the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're delaying backs for quite a while. Elioya is here. You see the ward go down. Ignar still hanging around.
There's no ults for Mad, so they have to be pretty clean on this.
Yeah, this is intense.
I can't believe Elioya was patient there to not do anything.
Yeah. They're just staring each other down. They don't know both in there as, okay, that's not going to amount to too much as the teleport comes out. And now Ignar will press his buttons and get that engage going as the dive from Mad, a little bit lackluster. And with the teleport coming in, Energy will win big.
I mean, sometimes the patience come back to bite you. Stay too long, they identify the situation, teleport to cancel. That play and grab a kill is... Dokla, he is getting abused.
That's a lot of damage. I mean, the wall's going to come in here. Niski is being followed, and he will pick up the kill. The Contracts is here now. He's got his ultimate as well. Can Niski survive against the big tree? I'm not so sure one auto might do it, and that will be Contracts picking up the kill.
The rare Maokai solo kill, but this whole wave's going to be going away. Energy won't be able to collect it. That's still, I think, overall worth for Niski.
Yeah, he's got teleport. He could go straight back to lane. Elyoya's catching his farm. 100% worth.
Oh, trying to get in here with the Alistair ultimate. He just doesn't take any damage as Elyoya just trying to survive, and that he will. Lasan coming over. This game is going off the rails now as the supports are coming in. There's that big apotheosis on 3 players, and casi going to get a huge shutdown here onto Palafox in the mid lane.
He's got his collector. He's got that damage. I mean, this is what we're talking about. These types of scrappy fights are what Neela is so good at.
And that's a huge turnaround for Mad Lions. Palafox was really feeling himself there with the Alistair ultimate, thinking he can kill Elyoya before this Dragon, get them ahead, but giving away that bounty.
Oh, boy. Jet, you'll get to talking a little bit, I swear, as these teams will not stop fighting each other, especially Hilly, who just decided to kind of go in there alone.
This is what we're here for there. Energy and Mad just battling it out. Couldn't have it any other way with Ignar versus Hylissang on 2 hard engaged champions.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what these 2 comps can do and how well they can punish, especially in these scrappy early game fights. It is pretty insane as casi is going to try to push this advantage, baiting Elyoya.
Another bait. Him very nicely. Palafox is taking a huge amount of damage, even with the Cataclysm. Oh! Does do a nice amount of follow-up damage with this Q, but it is not enough. Mad will pick up another kill.
Always drink your potions. He's going to live through that one. That's 3 kills now on this Rumble. He's about to pick up his first item here. Now, this will be at the cost of some plates here in mid lane. Dokla is the one who picks those up. It's not Palafox, but still, Mad Lions, I think, definitely winning out on this exchange.
I think so as well. casi is the carry so far with 3 kills on the Rumble, and I think Palafox, in particular, needs to just take a deep breath and reset. He had such a great start to this game with the kill and some teleports, but these are 2 situations in a row where he was kind of baited into a fight. When he was found in that bush, he literally could have just backed up to the second turret, but he thought he had enough damage to 100-0. And same when he tried to dive Elyoya, he thought he had enough damage, was a little bit short. Both of these situations was Matt actually baiting him a little bit, so just take your time. Realize you have the scaling on Sylas, realize your team has 2 Drakes, and just play your game.
Yeah, you catch a Rumble with Neverfrost and he stays, you got to know something else is coming.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, just thought he had the damage there. He nearly did, but did not quite have it. We're going to see FBI and casi move into the mid lane here. Side lane set up on the bottom side for Palafox versus Niski down there. And it's going to be a little bit of a period of time here before we get to this next Drake, but I want to mention it because it is Mountain Soul, and it is Mountain stacked against Poke here for Energy. If Mad starts getting those up, as Niski might be vulnerable.
Oh boy, yeah, he's going to get Everfrost. It doesn't react to it at all. He's just going to go down for free. 2 players just getting in the enemy jungle, and Energy pick up another one. Palafox
just so active. That was not a bait. That was, he brought friends, and it was much more successful.
For real this time.
Yeah.
It's part 2.
On the top side of the map here for Mad Lions, they won't come up empty though. They will go ahead and grab this turret here, so we'll further actually the lane economy snapshot presented by MasterCard here for the top laner. casi picking up so much money, and he is the carry, as you mentioned, Jat, earlier for this team. And there's a lot of setup for him, so even though casi isn't massively ahead, Talia isn't massively ahead, you can set up this Rumble for success. This is going to be, from Niski's point of view, just has no vision here, is so focused on this Gromp, it will be stolen away from him as the cherry on top here for NRG.
Yeah, Palafox definitely in a great situation for success here. Teleport coming in right now. There is a flash.
Yeah, they're trying to shut down the carry here. That E is not going to land, and he misses the equalizer entirely.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, I'm not playing Rumble. This is how I can prove it.
So, okay.
Harsh, Valdez, harsh!
How many attempts does it take to learn Rumble on? Because he's 0 for 2 so far.
Yeah.
Third time, surely.
Let's do a 3-strike system here.
Okay. If he
He's got one more. He's got one more. Come on, guys. He's got one more. All right. Now they're going to turn this into a topside play here for this turret. It is Jace who presses W, but it's going to take a long time here. This should give Mad Lions a chance to react. They're also pushing bottom side turret here, so I think Douglas should realize that this is not going to be a full turret he's going to be able to grab here. It will be contested, but this is all, of course, leading up to this Rift Herald that's going to spawn in 20 seconds. So Mad Lions already in position to come over here. Teleport available for this Talia. Niski going to try to grab this turret, then come over and help out for the fight. This is such an important fight for Mad Lions to win. It'll take the momentum back away from NRG, and then allow them to set up for this next Drake so they can start stacking those mountains against the poke.
Yeah, it looks like NRG, if they can just pick this one up, they're going to drop it mid lane before the next Drake, and then you get mid turret as well as possibly good setup. So it doesn't really look like Mad Lions is in position to contest. Second Herald does take a little bit longer to kill, but NRG definitely has first setup. Let's see what Hilly decides to do.
Well, TP is going to be committed to by both of the players here. Dokla also joining on up. It's a 5v5, and with Maokai ultimate, Mad say, well, that's a pretty strong ability. We're not in position to really fight this one. He misses the flag and drag, but Ilya will be just fine. But again, it's just a free Rift Herald there to the side of NRG. Yeah, it will make a 20-second desync with Maokai ultimate and the next spawn of Drake. So Mad might be okay with that trade. I also think Palafox's ultimate timer on Alistar ultimate may expire, so Mad is just going to try and play the cooldown game and see if they can get an advantage on this next Drake.
I mean, the fact that the Silas, Palafox is holding on to that Alistar ultimate makes it so difficult to engage there, especially with the late join of Niski, because he really wanted to get that turret goal bottom side. They just didn't buy themselves enough space to actually get in there and engage. Now, they will, of course, have said space for this dragon, as you're mentioning. They have set up for it, so it feels like, yeah, it didn't go so well in their Rift Herald fight, but we keep our tools, we keep these options open. And with a lack of vision here for NRG, you're going into this Neela ultimate, you're going into Equalizer, you're going to Elyoya, they spot him out.
This is where Maokai saplings are very nice to have because you don't need to blindly check. Otherwise, that's exactly what Mad would want.
Oh boy, Carsey goes very hard in there. No, he's going to get caught by two. And he does have some help from the Alistar, but look at the damage on the front line here from the side of NRG. And Palafox is just unkillable. He's just running at the side of Mad, and there's the follow-up from the Kaisa. FBI gets that back line, and Will just ripped him to shreds. It's now Hilly will be the last casualty. He does get one kill, and finally shuts down FBI, but that's not where you want that shutdown to go.
What a massive fight from NRG there. You could see Mad tried to pull the trigger first, but it was Ignar's engage that really landed. They do not take the Drake immediately. They're just stacking gold. Second tier, mid tier, bot turret as well. Huge lead.
And also, Carsey whiffing this engage is a huge problem here. They double flash, means that his flash is traded for two, sure, but the re-engage from Ignar is so solid here. And even though Chasey is very far ahead, he's very fed, he's only hitting the Silas in the front line who's got enough resistances to power through. Once Carsey's out of this one, you are just going to lose the longer fight in every scenario. There's only so much Chasey can do. He's got his flamethrower, he's got his equalizer, but he's never going to have the damage output to win that longer fight.
So much gold going over to NRG and Soul Point. So if NRG is able to hold on to this game, they will move to 2-1, which will put them one best of 3 away from advancing. That is what you want from the #1 seed in the LCS.
Yeah. And at the same time, NRG, they have a decent amount of poke in this comp, as we do have a pause. We'll let you guys know what's going on with that. But the second, if you overextend, the Kai'Sa's going to punish you, the Rel's going to punish you, the Silas is going to be in your face. You have to be so careful about how you take those engages. I think Mad just a little bit quick on the trigger on that one, and they got totally caught out. So NRG, absolutely fantastic how they were able to turn that one in their favor.
It feels like you could really feel Mad's desperation as they've started to lose control everywhere but topside. They had some fantastic plays topside. They put the Jace down, but even when they had objective control, it felt like they're losing time. If you don't engage fast enough, that Jace poke will wear you down, so you have to make that call. But the double flash was so quick on the reaction there, everything whiffs, and that's all it takes. And Mad